In 2023, I was tired of being single. My friends pushed me to try online dating, and so finally I downloaded Tinder. And I was just about to give up when I saw him. Chiseled jaw, well groomed, exactly my type physically. In fact, it almost seemed too good to be true. He was that good looking. So naturally, I swiped right. And later that day, he messaged. We messaged for hours. He was incredibly charming. And then we decided to have a phone call. Well, within the first 5 minutes of this phone call, he admitted that he was a recovering alcoholic. It was a struggle for him some days, but he was doing it. So I listened without judgment. And then it got to the end of the phone call, where he told me he couldn't drive because he'd had his license taken away. Now, as I said, he was so good looking. And that kind of overtook everything. And so stupidly, I said to him, "That's fine. I love driving anyway." That should have been my first red flag, because I had no idea that I had just signed up to be his personal chauffeur. So a few days later, he asked to meet up. And I had a hospital appointment right by his work, so he suggested I pop in. My anxiety was through the roof, but I needed to meet this man. So I agreed. And that was my first big mistake. I pulled up and he walked out. Broad shoulders, tight work trousers, and he smelled amazing. He wrapped me up in a cuddle that honestly made me forget where I was supposed to be going. And I didn't realise it at the time, but this was just the beginning of his love bombing. We continued to talk every day. Messages, phone calls. I was falling. And then it was about 2 weeks later, he called me and he asked me to pick him up from work. I obliged. So I went and got him. And when he got in the car, something was different to the man that I'd been talking to. It was like there was no space for me in the conversation. Every time I tried to say something, he would speak over me, and in the end, I just stopped trying. When we got to his place, he invited me in. I did actually feel a little bit uncomfortable at this point because I felt like the person sitting next to me was different. But I'm a people pleaser, and I couldn't say no. And I did still really like this man, and he was still absolutely gorgeous. So I said yes. He introduced me to his housemates, and then he left me with them, with these complete strangers, whilst he went and had a shower. For half an hour. I wanted to get up and leave, but 30 minutes later, when he walked back in that room, my stomach was doing flips. He looked better than I'd ever even seen him. And I knew at that point that I was really catching feelings for this man. I forgot to mention, when he was in the shower, one of his housemates said to me, "You do know he's got bipolar, right?" I didn't. And I should have been alarmed that he hadn't addressed this with me, because we was almost kind of in a relationship at this point. But all I wanted to do was support him. And there is my second big mistake. As I was leaving, he took my walking stick from me. He took complete control of my body. He spun me round and pulled me into his chest and then kissed me. And as we came to the end of our embrace, he asked me, "Do you always use a walking stick?" So I explained to him that I have a chronic illness and I probably would need the walking stick for the rest of my life. It was at this point that his reaction just threw me. There was no anything. He looked down at the floor, changed the conversation, acted like he didn't even hear what I said about my illness, and just nothing. I know that should have been my wake-up call, but it wasn't. It didn't take long for me to become trauma bonded to this man. The daily calls, the affection, the love bombing, it really worked. He kept asking for lifts, prying me for information every time we were in the car. It felt more like an interrogation than a car ride between a couple. The red flags were piling up at this point, but I still couldn't see them. This man was obsessed with his looks. Gym, steroids, sunbeds daily. He lied constantly about his work, about his qualifications, about where he was, literally everything you can think of, he lied about it. And he had such an addictive personality, always chasing that next high. Looking back, I can see it so clearly, but at the time, I was the one who was hooked. Comment,